You know, we use capital letters all the time, but have you ever really stopped to think about what they're doing? They're so much more than just grammar. They're actually a powerful tool we can use to add emphasis, to create clarity, and even to show emotion in our writing. So today, we're going to break down how these big letters really shape our voice in English.
Okay, so let's start with something we've all felt. You get a text message, maybe an email, and as you're reading it, you can almost hear the person who sent it. And sometimes it feels just a little bit loud.
All right, check this out. How does this message make you feel? A little anxious, maybe? Rushed? Yeah, for most people, this doesn't sound like a gentle nudge. It feels like someone is yelling from the other room. And that gets us to the big question we're tackling today. Why is that? I mean, they're just letters, right? What is it about putting them all in caps that turns a simple message into what feels like a shout? Well, to figure that out, we actually need to look at the rules that these all-caps messages are breaking.
You see, the English alphabet basically has two versions for every single letter. You've got the big uppercase one and the smaller lowercase one. And this two-part system is everything, because you can't just swap them out whenever you feel like it. Each one has a very specific job to do.
So what is a capital letter officially? Well, it's that larger uppercase version, and its whole purpose is to give a word special significance. Think of it like a little spotlight that you shine on a word to tell your reader, hey, pay attention to this one. This word is important. Let's get into the first and probably the most basic rule of them all. This is the one that brings a little bit of order to the chaos of our written language. It's super simple. The very first word of any new sentence always gets a capital letter. It's this beautiful, clear signal to the person reading. It marks the exact spot where one idea stops and a brand new one starts. It's really the ultimate organizational tool for our thoughts.
And look at this! You can see the difference plain as day. That shouting message from before is completely transformed. Now, with the right capitalization, you have two totally separate, much calmer sentences. Come home now. Full stop. New thought. Dinner is ready. That capital D on dinner, it changes the entire feeling, doesn't it?
Okay, now let's build on that. Because some words get that capital letter spotlight no matter where they show up in a sentence. I like to think of them as being members of a special VIP club. They have a permanent path to be significant, and we call these proper nouns.
The first and maybe most unique member of this club is the pronoun I. Anytime you are talking about yourself, that I is always capitalized. You know, there's a theory that this started way back with medieval scribes who made the single letter I bigger just so it wouldn't get lost on the page. Whatever the reason, today it always gets that VIP treatment.
Next up in the club are names. This is pretty straightforward. We're talking about specific people like Michael or J.K. Rowling, but also the titles of their work. Books, movies, songs, the titles get capitalized to show that they are specific, one-of-a-kind creations.
But hang on, there's a little catch here. If you think back to that Harry Potter title, you might have noticed the smaller words, like and, the, of. They weren't capitalized. That's a specific rule for titles. Usually only the bigger, more important words get the capital letter.
The VIP list keeps on growing. It also includes specific places. So we're talking about countries like France, rivers like the River Ganges, huge mountains like Mount Everest, and even specific man-made things like the Empire State Building. And this rule goes all the way up into space. Planets like Jupiter get capitalized too, because they're unique named locations.
And you guessed it, the same thing applies to the names of peoples and languages. Words describing nationality, like American or South African, get capitalized. And the names of specific languages, like Japanese or Finnish, are also capitalized because they are distinct named systems of communication.
We're not quite done with the VIP club just yet. Let's look at how we capitalize some of the more abstract concepts, things like time and systems of belief. So whenever we're talking about specific points on the calendar, we use capitals. This includes all the days of the week, like Monday, all the months of the year, like December, and of course, named holidays, like Christmas, Eid al-Fitr, or New Year's Eve.
This same idea applies to big belief systems too. So the names of religions, like Hinduism, the specific names for gods or deities, and formal titles for very specific people like the Queen. All of these are treated like proper nouns because they refer to a singular, specific thing. So we've pretty much covered the main rules, but with any good system, there are always a few tricky exceptions. And understanding all of this is what's finally going to help us solve that mystery about why all caps feels like shouting.
Okay, here's the most common exception, and it's a big one to remember. Even though we capitalize days, months, and holidays, we do not capitalize the seasons. So winter, spring, summer, and autumn are always lowercase. It just goes to show you that these rules are very specific and very deliberate.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. Let's be honest, we've all probably sent or received a message just like this one. It's that little apology for breaking all the rules we just went over. It's admitting, yeah, that probably came across a little more aggressive than I meant it to.
So here it is, the big reveal. The reason we hear shouting when we read all caps is precisely because it ignores all these careful, specific rules. Remember that spotlight analogy? A capital letter is supposed to be used sparingly to highlight something important. When you capitalize every single word, you're not using a spotlight anymore. You're blasting all the floodlights at once. It's just maximum, unfiltered emphasis on everything, and our brain interprets that as the written equivalent of someone yelling.
So, look, these rules aren't just about passing a grammar test. They're about having control over your voice when you write. They let you guide your reader, add just the right amount of emphasis, and create a very specific tone. So the real takeaway is this. Now that you know how this whole system works, how are you going to use it? Not just to be correct, but to really intentionally shape your own voice.